Femininity is this, it's like the set of cues a person does or has that in our society will make people think you're female or more likely to be female or closer to female.
Hi, my name's Sophie, and I use she, her pronouns. I've made this documentary, or rather compilation of interviews I conducted, to explore how femininity collides with queerness. I like to start the interviews with the question, what does femininity mean to you?
Oh wow, that's a complicated question. I guess, I don't want to be the person that defines the word femininity or, what it means to be a feminine person or to be femme.
For me, it is less of a way you present and more of a way that you identify. To me, if one feels feminine themselves, then they are. And if they identify that way, then they are. And often that does show through in how they present themselves.
I have a very odd relationship with femininity. It might be easier to describe femininity in relation to masculinity, but because I have no reference frame for masculinity, I never feel masculine to any extent. I just wind up having some very odd associations that describe femininity for me. So it's a feeling of compactness, of when I'm viewed as masculine, I kind of feel like I'm spilling all over the place, and I'm not drawn together. And then when someone views me as feminine, I feel more I forgot the word. I feel more contained.
So for me, it's just kind of an interpretation of, it can mean anything to anyone, and that's what it means to me. You can be feminine and have a beard, you can be feminine and wear a dress.
Okay, let's start with, what does femininity mean to you?
Femininity. I feel like this is gonna sound silly, but long hair and makeup and flowers and bright colors. But I mean, femininity is a concept.
Femininity?
Yes.
That's a hard question.
And being able to care for other people, and it means empathy and being able to feel. So I don't know. I guess it's very general, but ask a general question and you get a general answer.
I guess for me, femininity really does have to do with how you present yourself appearance-wise. I don't really know.
Femininity is, for me, it is self-expression where masculinity was very constricting and suffocating to me.
I feel like classically pretty does tie into feminine when I say it.
There's good things and bad things about being a woman, but
So follow up to that, what does it mean to be a girl or a woman?
That is a brutally difficult question. I mean, many other people would define it as something to do with your biology, but obviously being trans, I don't feel that way. I feel I don't know, there is a large part of being a girl has to do with your face shape and your presentation, and, your body shape. But again, there's so much more than that, just with regards to behavior and how you act. And so, like I said earlier, it's being allowed to care for other people. I feel that being a girl or being a woman, you have closer relationships with people. And you're not life isn't a competition as much. Those are a couple of things that come to mind.
I take this makeup that, we've been given by capitalism and told to put on our faces to make ourselves look better, and I can't say that I am not affected by that or the internalized misogyny that comes with it, but, I can say that I use it and I take it and make it my own and don't conform to typical ideas of, feminine beauty.
I definitely say I'm a femme lesbian, I guess. I present more femininely, which I guess makes it surprising that I'm a lesbian to some people. Mm-hmm. I've had some, you don't look like a lesbian reactions.
I have never had anyone say I don't look like a lesbian, because even though, I'm not as keen on presenting as a lesbian as I used to be, it's still, I still do look like a lesbian. I don't think anyone would ever question that I'm a lesbian if they just found out that I was a lesbian. The other day I was in dance class and I realized that I just gotten my short haircut and I had on a plaid, and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was like, oh my god, I look so butch right now, and I had to unbutton my plaid because I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with a buttoned up plaid in my short hair, because it's not. I think maybe 8th grade me would have really liked that. Oh, she's, that's a great appearance. I should totally do that. But now I think I actually want to distance myself from that too. I have a gay male friend now who's kind of saying, I know he's not entirely saying this, but he is saying a little bit, I want to appear a little bit less gay. I don't want it to be my main personality trait. I hope I'm paraphrasing that right. Mm-hmm. And I don't, also for me, I don't want gay to be my main personality trait anymore. For a long time it was. But not so much anymore. And I think a big part of that is the plaid. The plaid but it's a specific type of plaid. There's straight girl plaid and then there's gay girl plaid.
I feel like it's very hard to subvert something when you're born within it.
I think society is also very bad at recognizing lesbian relationships. Often, two women dating are seen as just friends or just something like that. And I think it really shows how society doesn't take female sexuality seriously. Kind of because often, in my experience, I've seen that a lot of, lesbian couples have to do a lot more to be recognized as couples. And I think that can put, a lot of pressure on it, and is also just, kind of strange. Just, I think because society really doesn't like acknowledging women's sexuality, and so when it's two women, it's very hard to come across as a couple and be taken seriously as a serious relationship, or even not, just taken seriously for what you are.
In little things, if you go to a party together, or if you go out to dinner together, or if you're walking down the street together, or even if you're holding hands, people don't think you're a couple, they just assume you're friends, which is can be irritating, and I imagine it would be more frustrating if you were in a couple rather than just casually dating someone. It can sort of be almost I don't know, it's a little bit fun. It's a little sneaky, oh, they don't know, we have a secret. Which, again, I want to be clear, I think that this is a serious thing that in many situations would be really upsetting and harmful to people, but I think been fortunate enough not to have had a situation where it was really offending me, because they were not taking this relationship central to my life really seriously. But just the standard people assume you're not dating a woman thing.
Had a partner before, and if so, how has your queerness impacted your relationship with your partner?
Yes, I have had partners. I've had cis partners and non-binary partners. In my experiences with cis boys, they kind of just never bring it up, ever. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I also don't know if that's it's not this amazingly taboo topic. It's just a thing about me, and I feel they tend to turn it into this taboo type thing. But whenever I'm with women or non-binary people, it's great. We'll bond over it, we'll talk about it, we'll go out and like watch queer documentaries and just like go to Pride and other festivals and just be out about it and not worry. I don't really think I've ever been able to like be out about my relationship when it's with like a cis boy. Like I've never. But with like women, instantly I'll be bragging about it and I'll be like holding their hand everywhere. But I don't know, that just might be my own thing. Not saying I don't appreciate boys, because I do, but there's just something about girls.
Because feminine friendships can be so close and romantic seeming in nature. It could be like, I just held hands with a girl for 2 hours, so we're good friends.
If I'm presenting for someone, it's going to be for women primarily and non-binary people. That's generally who I'm attracted to, and a lot of my gender, there are parts of my gender that are only relevant through my like attraction to women. And like parts of that expression.
Can you expand on that a little? So like you're
Go on.
like, so are you saying that like part of your gender is how you relate to other people?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. One big aspect of gender and femininity for me is relating to other people. I relate socially more to women than men, even though, I'm not a woman myself. I find safety and expression in the same way, and, there's a history of, like, feminine expression that women have that, like, I don't resonate with, like, male femininity. I don't resonate with, like, drag queens and, like, feminine men. I resonate with women who subvert femininity. And that's a big part of how I relate to femininity, is doing it not as a performance for men, but as something for yourself, or a way of, like, expressing yourself.
I first realized that I was trans in 8th grade, and I'm non-binary, and I've kind of been realizing that my gender and so many aspects of it are defined by what I'm not. I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy, I don't want to use she pronouns, I don't want to be called ma'am or lady or sir or mister. Well, sir is okay sometimes. I don't know, it depends. But not like seriously. And that I've been wanting to find recently, what are the things that make me feel affirmed in my gender? Like, what makes me feel like me? I want to find the things that help me define who I am as opposed to who I am not. And so because I was assigned female at birth, I think a lot of my transition had been, for a while, me running away from femininity. So I went through a period where I tried as hard as I could to pass as male, and that wasn't really me. So recently I've been reclaiming my femininity a lot more, and that's been really important to me as a process, that I want to get to express all aspects of myself, and that includes my feminine aspects, and that includes my masculine aspects, but also that I don't want to define myself with terms like that. I just want to be myself. Like, I just want to be Sage. And so I guess a really big part of my finding my own femininity has been doing drag. So I do that a lot with my friend, and I've realized that drag for me doesn't feel like a reversion to the femininity that I was assigned at birth. It feels like I'm defining femininity on my own terms,
And that's pretty amazing for me. That's like such a validating experience to say, this isn't a reversion, this isn't giving in or anything. This is me living as myself. And I really want to be able to embrace femininity in all its versions. You know, I want to be able to be soft, and I want to be able to dye my hair and my eyebrows pink. And not have that be like a whole thing. Like, I don't want that to invalidate who I am. I just want it to be me expressing myself.
Dating a guy is weird because so I was brought up to be a girl, and there's this sort of assumption when for me when I'm dating a guy that we're gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend, especially since up till about 3 months ago everyone perceived me as a girl. Almost everyone perceived me as a girl, and it's like I can like guys. I've been attracted to many guys, but it's really uncomfortable when I'm not a girl, or even just if I am a girl and not feeling particularly feminine, because even as a girl I'm pretty androgynous, and I just, it's like I've had eminent opportunity to observe this, because the first person I dated came out as a trans guy about 3/4 of the way through our relationship, and I could feel the way I related to him changed. Like, there was, like, when we were, when we both thought we were girls, there was this sort of assumption of equality, and that we could kind of do whatever we want because there weren't as many societal guidelines for our relationship. And then knowing that he was a guy, I wasn't attracted to him less, but I felt like, and our relationship hadn't really changed. We were still the same people, but I felt like I was supposed to act differently. Like,
Why are you transitioning?
Right. I am transitioning because I feel like my body should be one way, and it is not currently expressing. I feel like it currently doesn't express something I feel innately I should have, and it also doesn't express something that society perceives as what I want to perceive me as. It's kind of, it's both social and internal, innate as a thing. I feel like the way that I present would be easier if I had been, the way that I want to present would be easier to achieve if I had been through a testosterone-fueled puberty first. But, obviously that would be a very different story as far as, social struggles, so, it's a complicated thing to express, but I think that, should I have gone through things hormonally the other way first, it would express better the way I feel feminine and the way I feel femininity, than being through an estrogen-based puberty first and going through all of that and being expected and taught this specific way to express femininity rather than having to fight for it myself.
Did you notice a difference in the way people treated you before and after you came out as trans, and do you think that was in regard to people perceiving you as a woman or people perceiving you as trans?
I'm not certain whether people treat me any differently. My parents never made a really big deal over gender, right? and they did that intentionally. And so, they didn't do the stereotypical, like, you're a boy, so you get blue items and monster trucks, right? And you're a girl, so you get pink tutus and they didn't do that. They just, our birthdays, we would get whatever we happened to be interested in at the time, which was often a lot of books. Oh, that's one thing. I'm finally getting clothes for presents. I never got clothes before. So I think that, that's one way where I'm being treated slightly differently. But it did take about a year to sink in that, hey, I actually do like getting clothes for presents. But that's an interesting thing. But, like, people never give boys clothes for presents. Let's see, at school, I do think I am treated a little bit differently just because I spend less time around boys, which is good for me. I'm very happy about that. And I think that, again, people are more comfortable being, like, closer friends with me because I'm presenting more feminine. But I don't know, again, it's hard to tell at school because I was homeschooled until 8th grade. So, yeah.
How did you know you were a girl? And I'm aware that's, like, a really big question that a lot of trans people get asked. How did you know you were X, or how did you know you were Y?
Yeah. A lot of different things. I guess well, first off, you know how when you're imagining doing something, for example, I don't know, like just when you're playing out, like, what would it be like if I did this or something, right? Or if you have a mental picture of yourself, right? Usually it looks the same way you actually look. But for me, I look like a girl in my head. And then when I actually do something or when I look in a mirror, it's a profound disappointment. And there's a very big disconnect there, and it's sometimes pretty uncomfortable. And so, yeah, a lot of the time I'll avoid looking at mirrors just because I don't look the way that I want to, or I don't look the way that I feel that I should.
I view myself as mostly feminine, not at all masculine, tending a little bit towards the neutral. I usually like to say I'm, like, almost a girl.
How do you figure out you were almost a girl?
A combination of factors. I think the first factor was definitely just being introduced to the idea that it's possible to be trans. And not just for others, but also for me, because originally when I was taught about queer issues, it was just like, oh, that's something that's in the world, and some people do it, but that's not for you, that's for other people, right? So I realized I could be, like, that was something that I was allowed to be, and that the possibility existed that maybe I could be queer. And then from there, a lot of self-exploration, at which point dysphoria started kicking in, and then so a lot of, I don't want to give dysphoria too much credit, but, like, a lot of the process of figuring out that I'm almost a girl is had to do with dysphoria, making me more and more uncomfortable with all the society, with all the, like, masculine parts of myself, right? And me wanting to distance myself as much as possible from anything masculine as a result. But it's also just feeling more at home when I'm viewed as feminine or when I'm viewed as non-masculine, and wanting to pursue that.
How'd you know you were a girl?
I was just, like, thinking one day, not one day, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, because I don't sleep very much, but I was just like, I don't really feel like the gender that I am right now, and I kind of want that to not be represented as who I am. So I was talking to, like, one of my friends who's actually a bitch, who is actually, like, not a good person anymore. they were never a good person. They were like, well, that's okay. That means that you're a girl or you're gender fluid. And I'm like, damn, you're McRight. And so that's how I figured it out.
You figured that out in one night?
No, it took me like 5 months.
5 months?
Yeah. But that was like the most intense night of the thinking.
Did that start the 5 months or end the 5 months?
End. No, wait, that started it.
But I think that something I think about a lot is like my personal relationship to a subset of the things that can be thought of as feminine. And I think one like aspect of that I've been thinking about a lot in my life lately is that I sort of was like, okay, well, if I want people to listen to me when I speak and take me seriously, I need to like dress less feminine and all those things. So I sort of was like, all right, no skirts, no pink, no purple, no bright colors. I'm just gonna wear like pants and button-down shirts every day, more or less. But that's something, and so I did that for many years. And but when you start to do it, so to get agency out of it, and then I feel like I spent so long living inside of this box that I'd created so that people would listen to me that I developed a really sort of not great relationship with those things where I would be like, well, you can't wear a dress and be listened to. So it's something I'm sort of trying to reclaim a little bit, is like, I'm going to wear a dress to work. People are still going to listen to me, I hope.
How would you like to dress if you weren't considering your perception?
I don't know. It would probably, like, I imagine it would be really different, but that's also something that I'm interested in trying to figure out because I've spent so long trying to dress in a way just so that, like, people will listen to me or take me seriously or not, like, grab me if I don't want to be grabbed and all those things. So it's sort of, like, really hard to tease out what your, like, intrinsic, like, what does my soul want to wear aside from all these practical considerations. So I really don't know the answer to that, but I'm interested in discovering it.
So tying into something we were talking about earlier today, do you dress in a way that you try to signal that you are bi or that you're queer?
It depends.
Are you comfortable with the term queer? I should have asked sooner.
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay.
I usually, that's like my go-to word because, bi is a complicated word and I it's the word that feels more comfortable to me because it's the word I grew up knowing to mean the thing that was true of me, but it's such, like, it's complicated and it invokes the gender binary, so I try to use the word queer. I have, when I first came out, I think this is something that many people do, maybe especially queer women. I had, like, I pass as straight, and I was like, I don't want to pass anymore. I want to cut off all my hair and only wear, like, boy clothes. And interestingly, I was like, okay, I'm going to cut off all my hair to, like, a trusted friend. And he was like, okay, I respect that decision, but people aren't going to listen to you anymore. The people are going to take you less seriously if you do that. And I was like, right, okay. So I didn't do that. But I did go through a long phase where I wanted to dress in a way that I thought made me look more queer. Because I think that, biphobia in particular can be a really complicated thing where other members of the queer community are like, you're not queer enough, especially if you're like a feminine, like cis presenting, like I pass. So I like barely count. And God forbid you also are bi or pan and dating someone that is your opposite gender. Mm-hmm. Then like you don't count at all in, the way biphobia presents and all that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to counteract this by dressing really gay. But that's a costume in its own right. So I'm trying to not do that.
Yeah. So are you not, what made you stop wanting to present as queer, just realizing it's biphobia, or was there like a specific instance that?
I think it just started to feel, I became more, there was some of it that was like, finally I'm going to wear the things I want to wear because I'm not trying to wear things so that a boy will like it only, and I'm not afraid that people are going to notice that I'm gay because I'm wearing these clothes. So at first there was this freedom of doing it, and then I did it more than I would have done to realize my actual internal self because of all the biphobia stuff. And so I think after a while it felt like I was putting on another costume, just like the it was an overreaction because I was putting on this other costume just like before. I would dress more femininely so that like no one will know I'm gay. Yeah, so then I think I just sort of was like, well, I don't really want to be wearing a costume, so I'm just going to try to be myself and you can deal with it.
Did you think you were lesbian, or are you using gay as an umbrella term?
I'm using gay as an umbrella term.
Okay.
Which maybe is controversial in its own. I sort of just do that because, I don't know, it's easy linguistically.
I really don't like the concept of, like, there's butch lesbians and there's femme lesbians, and then, you know, people joke about, like, futch or butchy femme or whatever. I don't know if anyone actually identifies as, like, a butchy femme or a futch. And then there's also, like, soft butch, stuff like that. And it's really interesting because when I cut my hair, I came to school the next day and I hadn't really told anyone. And then someone that I've known for a really long time was like, oh, you look so butch now. And then I'd never really thought about it. But that actually made me really uncomfortable. Like, I didn't like it because I still thought of myself as pretty feminine. Even though I have short hair, like, I don't think we have to associate short hair with butchiness. Because to me, a butch is someone who actively identifies as butch and calls themselves a butch, which I don't. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think it goes with, like, a whole style. Like, it's kind of a lifestyle. Like, you think of a butch, like, key ring, baggy pants, short hair, you know, just has, like, a masculine personality. Mm-hmm. And then you think of, like, a femme as someone who, like, you know, is more feminine. And you don't necessarily think of them as a lesbian because that is also, like, sort of the stereotype is a lesbian is a butch. Mm-hmm. And I just was really uncomfortable that they called me a butch. Mm-hmm. Or they didn't even call me a butch. They just said that I looked butch. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm still a feminine person. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking, am I a feminine person? Does my hair really control whether I'm a feminine person or not? I don't know. I don't think it does. But yeah, I would never identify myself as a butch or a femme or a futch or a butchy femme. But if you want, like, if some other lesbian wants to, that's fine.
The femme butch thing, I actually don't have a problem with it. I know that most lesbians aren't going to fall into one or the other cleanly, but there's a lot of history to it, and there's a lot, like, if you look at lesbian history, there's a video documentary about it done by a YouTuber called Strange Aeons. I really highly recommend you look it up. I love her, and she just went into all that stuff, and there's a lot of history behind it within riots and protests and just activism, and I really think that that's not something to discount. I think it's a really important part of our history, but people shouldn't be pressured to fall into one or the other by any means. Like, we can appreciate history without necessarily restricted by it. Okay, so there's, like, debate over whether this is exclusively a lesbian problem, but it's generally considered one, which is collective rape. There's, like, the language behind it is heard more often, like, oh, you just need a man to fix you. But then in practice, there are many instances of people actually trying that. And so a lot of lesbians do get raped. The term was coined by South African lesbians, I think, quite a while ago. I'm not sure exactly when, time-wise, but it's a really big issue that there is a lot of sexual assault, not just causing lesbianism, because, you know, there's that stereotype, but also as a result of it, just in an attempt to fix us. There's corrective rape narratives in stories, not necessarily through rape, more through seducing lesbians or a challenge, that kind of thing. And it irks me, but there's definitely that kind of luring someone away from lesbianism type thing. And of course there's just going to be, I don't know, less oppressive issues, just more like finding someone's going to be a little tougher if you only had that one option, which definitely isn't an oppression issue. It's fine. I don't mind it, and I know bi girls have trouble with girls as well because there's that preconceived notion against them in some cases, so it's not, I guess that one, it is kind of an exclusively lesbian and gay problem, but it applies in other ways to others, so.
To be clear, you do think there's a way to code femme lesbians, and it's not always just making a woman more masculine codes her as gay?
Yeah, I guess it's just, yeah, of course you could throw in, like, the looks, the body language, all that kind of thing, But you could throw in little other stereotypes that aren't necessarily masculine, because there is a lot more to lesbian stereotypes than just that. And you can have some really feminine presented girls that just have those gay stereotypes as well. But I think the glasses are less of one, but I have seen it applied before. And I've seen gauge earrings sometimes. Not always. Absolutely not always. It's just certain combinations of things, I suppose, in addition to body language and speech and that kind of thing can queer code a character without necessarily falling into masculinizing a character. But butch lesbians do exist, and there's a lot of them. And they're proud to call themselves butch. They're proud to present themselves in a more masculine way. And they absolutely exist, and they should be represented still. So I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I'm a lesbian, and for a long time, and I mean not a long time, I'm only 15, but in middle school, when I was figuring that out, I got very wrapped up in, like, I don't know how much the internet had to do with it, and I don't know how much, like, classic perceptions of lesbians had to do with it, and also, like, I wasn't entirely sure that I was a lesbian then. Like, I thought maybe I'm bisexual, maybe I don't know if I ever considered whether I was, like, pansexual, but I know I wasn't always dead set on being a lesbian until, like, a year and a half ago. But up until, like, the summer going into 9th grade, I was really like, yeah, I'm gonna be butch, or even if, like, I'm gonna get a pixie cut. Like, as soon as I decided to come out to everyone, I cut my hair. And that was, like, the first thing I did was I got a pixie cut, and then I dyed my hair because I was like, this is what gay people do. And, like, I'd never been very feminine in my clothes. And then I just got, like, less feminine. Like, I tried to find pants that weren't form-fitting, and of course I didn't realize that, like, you know, having a female body, you have hips, it's really hard to find pants that aren't form-fitting, even though I know that they're out there. So I tried really hard to find pants that weren't form-fitting, and I cut my hair short, and I intentionally never got into makeup or anything, just because I thought that that was, like, how I had to present. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing, but then in high school I realized, like, no, you can be a lesbian and you can be feminine, like, whatever. And I'm still, like, to this day getting more and more comfortable with my femininity. Like, I cut my, like, okay, so I had like a bob, kind of, and then I shaved one side of my head, and then I got an undercut, and I had that for, like, over a year. And then finally, just, like, a couple of weeks ago, I cut it all off, so it's really short now. And I think a lot of people, like, see that and they're like, oh, it's because she wants short hair, but it's actually because I want long hair. Like, I want to grow it all out, and, like, I want now to have just, like, a normal head of, like, just long hair without the shaved part. Just because I want to be more feminine. Like, that is a big thing for me. Like, I want to be more feminine. Because last year, I don't know, I go between days of wanting to be more feminine and wanting to be more masculine. So I have feminine clothes and I have masculine clothes. And sometimes I mix them up. But, yeah, just kind of depends on what I'm feeling, too.
It's like, well, what does a lesbian look like? Because isn't it just, like, you like a certain gender? Like, is it really, or, like, you like a certain type of person? Is it really, like, how do you look like a lesbian? Is it like, am I just like rainbow all the time, or is it like, what? I don't understand. People have told me, like, you're a lesbian, but you're not ugly. Like, you're too pretty to be a lesbian. I'm like, what does that mean?
If you looked more like a lesbian, do you think you'd get fewer comments like, you should give guys a shot? How do you know you're a lesbian? Let me be your first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't really think so. I feel like people that say those kind of things are, like, at the point where they're not gonna, like, no matter what you say or what you look like, they're still gonna make comments like that. Like, if, like, someone's not gonna, to me, like, in my experience, people aren't gonna, like, stop and go, like, they look like more like a lesbian, so I'm not gonna do this. It's more just, like, people that say that are gonna say it no matter what you look like.
There's different kinds of aggression you're going to face depending on how you present.
Yeah.
And being non-binary, there's fear there as well. Because I do present in a way that a lot of people would consider androgynous.
Anything about how you presented after realizing you were gay?
That's
or did did you cut your hair and people were like, oh, so now that you're a lesbian, you're just like, no, I just wanted to get my hair cut.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of people assumed I cut my hair like this because I'm a lesbian, but it's more just like I like my hair short because long hair isn't fun to me. Well, to me, it's like it's too much work, and I have really thick hair, so having long hair is an issue. But like I don't really think I really changed. I think if anything, it's made me more confident because I know more of I know who I am now. But I think that also is because I'm like maturing as a person and less
less concerned with how people perceive you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just like I'll wear what I want, and then whatever happens.
Okay. Do you? What part of this question I want to get into first? Do you think that other aspects of who you are live up to what a girl should be?
Women like men exclusively. No, not true for me. I have no interest whatsoever in men, just generally. Like, every now and then I'll see a hot guy and I'll kind of admire him and I'll be like, oh, that's a pretty piece of flesh. But that is a beautiful man. But, it's kind of like looking at a nice picture of a sunset, right? There's no attraction there. And yeah. Feminine interests. I kind of push back against that. I don't think that there should be societal feminine and male, like girls like this and boys like this. No, you can like whatever you want.
I'm still constantly trying to appear less masculine if I can, which I can't always.
Do you consider yourself feminine?
Not in my current state.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
I wear, I don't know, I'm just kind of like an aggressive person. Not aggressive, but I have a hard outer shell. Words are hard. I have a hard outer shell. And in my, the lines of, what feminine means to me is I don't fit in between it, in those lines. But honestly, that's okay for me right now because I'm just trying to focus on school and be done with school. Then I'm going to move to Colorado, and then I'm going to do shit there, even though Colorado is, hella transphobic. I'm going to have my friends, and everyone in Colorado is high anyway, so I don't think they'll care that much.
Are you going to start presenting more femininely once you move to Colorado / once you are able to be out more?
Probably.
Do you feel like you're feminine?
Yes, definitely. I'm very feminine.
Do you think that when you choose to say wear makeup, is it I want to wear makeup and that is the thing that happens to be feminine, or is it I want to present femininely today?
It's actually an interesting question. I just wear makeup for me, and it does happen to be feminine, but I also choose not to wear makeup on days when I'm feeling more masculine, so it's a mix of both. But I wear makeup just because I enjoy what it looks like and I enjoy putting it on.
When you say feeling more masculine, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean when I want to wear more muted colors, and when I don't want to look like a girl, and when I don't want to present on the feminine end. So baggier clothes and a sports bra instead of a regular bra. And I don't style my hair. I don't wear any makeup. I wear sneakers instead of sandals or high heels.
Why don't you tell the story about your hair and why you cut your hair?
Ooh, this is this is a good one. I used to have really long hair. It was like past my butt, and then I cut it up to like my hips, and then I cut it to like right above, like right below my shoulders, and then I cut it to my shoulders after it had grown out past my boobs. So like lots of hair cutting, and this all happened within a year. And so then over the summer, I like really wanted to cut my hair, and I was like, wow, I really want to try having short hair, because like people, like everyone thinks that I'm straight, and I really want a girlfriend, and no girls come after me because everyone thinks I'm straight. So I was like, I'm gonna cut my hair to get a more like homosexual vibe going on. So I was like telling people that I was going to cut my hair, and everyone said, no, you're not actually going to do it, because I have a really hard time letting go of my hair. I like cry every single time I get a cut. But I actually met a girl who looks really straight. She looks straighter than me. Which, I mean, I know there's no such thing as like looking straight, but like according to other people. But she looked like very, very heterosexual. She's a lesbian, and we were talking, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely more attracted to femininity and like feminine women, not really butch women. And she's like, oh, me too. Like, I don't think I would, like, I can't date a woman with short hair. And I was like, ooh, because I'm cutting my hair. And so I told her that I was cutting my hair in October, because I had cut my hair in June, and I wanted to have like shoulder length hair for like the summer and a little bit into fall. And then I was going to cut my hair in October. And she's like, why October? Are you really cutting your hair? And I was like, yeah, because like I want to experience like shoulder length hair for a bit, and then I want to like have short hair. But then I ended up cutting it in September, because like I didn't want to really cut my hair anymore, but people had said that I wasn't going to do it, so I felt like I had to do it just to prove that I was actually going to do it, because like I was going to do it, but then I met a girl, and that happened, and she was like really stressed out about it, and she's like, I don't like, oh, and I'm like, are you still going to date me? And she's like, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, I wouldn't seek out a girl with short hair, but like I would still date a girl with short hair. I'm like, really? Because that's not what you said. But she said she still would have, because she DM'd me, and she said that she's like, that's how we met. She said she still would have DM'd me even if I had short hair in my profile picture. And I'm like, that's interesting. So it sounds like you just, I don't know what your short hair thing is then. But so I cut my hair, and I miss my long hair a lot. And a lot of people think I'm a trans boy, like when I don't wear makeup, and when I dress masculinely. So, yeah, it's great. Love it. But I feel like people are going to misgender me more than they already do once I have long hair, because I'm agender. So people already use she, her pronouns for me. But like having long hair is really going to add to the misgendering, which I'm not excited for. But that's just part of life, because I don't have long hair.
Do you think in the future you're going to make decisions that will indicate about how you present that will indicate that you're a gender, or do you think that you're going to ignore that when you choose how to present?
I definitely think that I'm going to like just continue presenting the way that I want to present, because like I used to like even feel too masculine when I wouldn't wear makeup and just wear like a button-up flannel, which was ridiculous. I felt like so masculine, and I hated it. But then once I cut my hair, I was able to like embrace masculinity more. So now like my style, some days I dress really masculine. I'm not really masculine, but some days I dress kind of masculine, and then some days I dress femininely. So I think I'm just going to continue doing that, because like, I mean, I don't need to prove to other people that I'm agender. Like, I just need that in my heart. That's it.
Did this girl who you were dating stay with you after you cut your hair?
She did stay with me. She actually thought that it looked really good. She was like, oh, I was really scared that I wasn't going to be attracted to you anymore. I'm like, damn, you're so shallow. Honestly, so shallow. But she's like, yeah, you actually look like really hot. I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's the tea. So, yeah.
Do the girls who you date, or the girls you've been in relationships with, care that you're agender, or do you think?
Well, this is a whole thing. So, I've only dated 2 people, and I've only been in one relationship. In the first relationship, she identified as a lesbian, and I identified as agender, which means not a woman. And so there were always issues with that, like kind of like internal issues. Like I would like think about it a lot, and I would think about how like my gender doesn't fit, or my lack of gender doesn't fit into her sexuality. doesn't fit into who she's attracted to, but she'd always be like, no, like, I, like, still, like, respect your agender or whatever. And, like, she did, but I feel like she never considered me to be anything other than a woman, which was frustrating. But, like, when I first started, like, I started identifying as agender after we got together, but then it was kind of just, like, a thing because I don't really think that, like, gender exists. I think it's just, like, a concept. So that's why I started, but then I honestly started feeling, like, more and more genderless, like, the longer I identified as agender, and I used to use any pronouns. Or I used to use she, her, and then she, they, and then any pronouns, but people would only use she, her with me, and I was kind of sick of that. And so now I use they, them, but I kind of want to use he, they, just to throw people off, because people will be like, what the fuck? Because, I mean, breaking barriers, you know? Because I'm just sick of she, her, but I hear it a lot. So, yeah, but then she didn't care, but I, like, posted something on my spam about how it was frustrating, because I posted a poll on Instagram asking, like, what people thought, like, if they thought, like, a gay man could date a non-binary male-bodied person. And everyone's like, oh, of course. And then I was like, can, like, a lesbian date, like, a female-bodied person who identifies as, like, non-binary or agender or whatever, something that is not man or woman? And everyone's like, yeah, of course, like, that's okay. And they're like, it's just about whether or not you really like the person. I'm like, yeah, but it feels so invalidating. And this was coming from, like, a lot of, like, cisgender people, and they've never, like, experienced, like, invalidation with their gender. But, like, it was kind of frustrating, and she was frustrated that I was frustrated about it. We had a long talk. Actually, she decided to break up with me. She didn't tell me that she was going to break up with me, obviously, because she wanted to do it in person, but she still had this long talk with me about it, which didn't really make any sense. But, like, we texted about it, and she's like, it really frustrates me that you don't just talk to me directly. I'm like, well, I know nothing's going to change. And she's like, well, I am who I identify as, and I'm not interested in changing my sexuality. I'm like, well, I'm not asking you to, but I need you to, like, really recognize me as agender. And it's, like, just kind of frustrating that you talk about how you're only attracted to women, like, all the time. And then the second girl that I dated tried really hard with my pronouns, and she was really sweet about it, but she still identified as bisexual, which means attraction to men and attraction to women. And the only person that she's ever dated was non-binary. But she still identified as bisexual opposed to pansexual, which would be, like, the accurate term.
Did she know the word pansexual?
Yeah, she did, but she's just kind of like, I don't know, sexuality is confusing. I'm like, it is. But, like, it was very clear that she was pansexual. Or polysexual, because she wasn't super attracted to men. And, you know, polysexual is attraction to multiple genders, but not all. I used to identify as polysexual over the summer. How about now? Well, now people are like, oh, what's your sexuality? And I'm like, ooh, that is a question, isn't it? So now I'm just me. I hate being one of those people who's like, I'm just me. What even is sexuality? I think that's so annoying, but I mean, that's who I am now. Because I'm just cedar, and I just say I'm queer. I just say I'm only, because my attraction is all over the place. I started out as bisexual, and then I moved to pansexual, and then I moved to polysexual, and then I kind of drifted away from all the labels, because I used to be attracted to everyone equally. I actually used to really be into boys, and I'm like, well, I do like girls, but, like, I like boys more now. Spoiler alert, I do not like men. But people always think I'm a lesbian, too. People are like, oh, you must be a lesbian. You're a lesbian. You're a lesbian. And, like, even my friends who know I'm not a lesbian, they're like, you can't argue with me. Like, you know you're a lesbian, Cedar. I have one friend, and she's like, you know that you're lying to yourself. Like, you are a lesbian. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I'm attracted to, like, non-binary, like, female-bodied humans. I actually can't tell if I'm attracted to trans men or not. So that was a kind of a lie when I said that I am not attracted to men. Who knows? Sexuality is wild. But, like, yeah, and I don't even identify as a woman. So it's wild to me that people still insist I'm a lesbian.
Coming out in German is just it's just translating. I had to translate a lot of queer terminology in my head. I had to be like, okay, I don't know what the German word for dysphoria and euphoria is. In fact, I still don't know what those words are. And I had to take them out of the English and define them in German and then use the English words while speaking in German. Yeah, it was tricky. Also hard because German doesn't have a neutral pronoun at all. Just kidding, it does. It's only used for objects and for the word girl. It's messed up.
Well, that's because das Mädchen. Don't make it sound like German dehumanizes girls. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, it kind of does, though, in a way.
That's a fair argument.
Femininely, and I felt that pressure to pick one side or the other. And so I started to overcompensate, and eventually I got to a point where I thought I was a trans man and was presenting very masculinely all the time, and I was miserable. I hated it. It made me so dysphoric. I knew I wasn't a man. Or I do now, but I knew I wasn't a woman, but I knew that I hated presenting masculinely, and I kept telling myself, once I'm on T long enough, like just once I'm on T long enough, then I can present the way that I want. And one day, when I turned 18, 19, I had a big change in my life, and I just said screw it, and started presenting femininely again, and it made me very happy, and led me on a big gender adventure, but here I am still transitioning, just presenting the way that I always wanted to present.
I'm not gonna name names, but I know people that don't really understand being bi. They're like, why can't you just pick one?
How did the perceived gender of the person you were doing romantic code activities with, in this case holding hands, impact your perceived gender?
At that time, I was not. This was like. I was not out to anyone except that person, actually. So I was viewed as a boy across the board, of course, because that person was viewed as a girl.
In the past, how has the perceived gender of the person you're out with in public, you're dating in public, impact people's perceptions of you and them?
It makes me look straight, which I don't like.
Can you elaborate on not wanting to be seen as straight?
I mean, it does have its advantages, because people won't throw rocks at you or call you faggot, which is fun to not have that happen.
Does it happen to you?
Oh, many times, yeah.
How do you balance the desire to be visible with, like, staying safe, right? Like.
Oh, that's a really interesting question. So I feel like in the Bay Area, I don't have to worry as much about my safety, but I generally dress as a way that could be misinterpreted as just like, I don't know, gay man, or like what I'm wearing right now isn't particularly feminine. I don't wear skirts or dresses to school. I rarely wear them in public at all. What I do is I like to express more femininely when I know I'm going to be in a position of power in a social event. So say I did this for the IB Studio Art Show. I was one of the artists. That meant that I had a bit more control over the whole situation because I was exhibiting. I had some status in that environment, and so I felt the liberty to come in a skirt, and I felt like people couldn't question me because I was, part of the whole. I had more social standing in that particular situation. Or when I'm performing with my choir and I'm on stage, that makes me perform. So when I wear a dress, I feel like people can't be as critical of me because they came here to see me, and so if you criticize me, that's like, what are you going to do? It's my performance.
Does your choir have uniforms?
Yes. And that was interesting. For a year, I instead of wearing a tux like all the guys do, or wearing a dress like the girls do, I wore just black pants and a black dress shirt, and that confused people. That was my version of like a non-binary dress up. And now I wear the concert dress. Let's see. I thought about balancing safety and expression. Yeah, it's really tricky. There's some things that I don't do, not so much because I'm worried about my safety, but just because I'm worried about being embarrassed, like trying to raise my voice too much while I'm talking to people in public, because like if I mess up and my voice cracks or whatever, that could endanger me, not physically but just like socially, maybe not. And certain things that I could do to pass that I don't do because they would make me uncomfortable, which is slightly, I'm veering off now. But it's like how far are you willing to go to pass, and like to pass, will you or to pass socially, like to be seen as what you want to be seen as by other people, will you go so far as to do things that you're not physically comfortable with? So like if I really wanted people to view me as feminine, I could wear makeup. I don't like the thought of wearing makeup, so I don't do that. As a result, I feel more comfortable physically, but the social aspect of things then is not as great as I would like it to be. I sent my grandma in Germany a long email explaining everything. I have to explain what it means to be trans, because German people aren't cleared up quite as much as American people are, generally speaking, at least in California. So I had to explain everything for her, from like the bare bones minimum, and she got it. But then the second half of her reaction was, you should never physically transition. I don't want you going on hormones. I don't want you doing surgery, because it won't work. Like part of it was it won't work, and part of it is just that like regular conservative thing of like, don't change your body. So I'm not gonna keep to that. But that's as far as negative reactions to me have gone, which is really fortunate. I've never gotten a reaction more negative than that, and it could have been a lot worse.
Do you feel like you're like being queer has impacted the relationships that you've been in? Like, have you dealt with biphobia within your relationships?
I think I have been, well, yeah, I guess on some level, I think part of the reason I didn't come out until I was 20, I sort of did this thing where I think in like our AP Psych class or something in high school, we learned about the Kinsey scale. And I was like, I don't even remember which side is all the way straight, but I was like, I don't think I'm that. That doesn't sound right. To the guy I was dating at the time, he was like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, probably is. And I kept like trying to say this to my friends, and I don't think I knew this is 100% what I was doing, but I was like, someone would be like, Emma, that means you're queer. You don't have, that's what that means. And I kept doing this over and over again, being like, well, I would make out with a girl. I don't know. And people were always like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, okay, I won't say that anymore. And so I guess that's sort of subtle, I would say, but then later, I sort of continued to do the same thing in college, because I would just think about it. I'd be like, it's interesting. I think it's somewhat hard, I think, if you grow up in a place that isn't already super accepting. And hard probably even then. But I definitely grew up in a more, like, conservative area and in a place where, like, everyone's straight, right? And there were, like, 2 gay kids at school, So, and I was attracted to men, so I was like, okay, phew, I'm straight, okay, we're good. But then I would, like, see the Victoria's Secret commercials and be like, I feel funny. And then I would be like, oh my god, am I gay? I would be so scared that I was gay, but I was like, wait, but you're attracted to men, you can't be gay, which is such internalized biphobia. But it allows this other level of denial, because you are attracted to men. I am straight. I'm straight. How could I not be straight? I'm normal, so I must be. And so I would just like say it out loud and try and get someone to be like, no, you're not straight. Because I don't know, I needed someone to do that. And so then when I did that more in college, people were like, hey, you know, I'm straight and I am not ever attracted to women, but you say you are sometimes attracted to women. I think you might not be straight. And I'd be like, are we sure? Wait, what do you mean you're not attracted to women? Because I thought I was straight and I was attracted to women, so I was like, well, so everybody is, right? Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be attracted to women? It sounds so silly now, but these are the loops you can twist yourself into when you're told, because you're told by every aspect of society, well, of course you're straight.
Is that like from the everyone's a little bit bi rhetoric?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of the thing, right? Because, like, girls will, like, kiss each other at parties as a joke, and women are so sexualized to begin with. There's so many excuses you can come up with for your attraction to women that isn't that you're just gay or queer. Yeah, so how that relates to your question about biphobia in relationships is that then I was dating a different guy when I finally came out, and he was like, yeah, I'm never attracted to men. This isn't how it works. Straight people aren't what do you mean? How do you have more questions after you're like, I would be like, well, I'm attracted to women, but I'm straight. It's like, no, those aren't the rules. And so I was very fortunate in that sense. And then moving forward in other relationships with men, I would just be like, I like blurt it out because I, like on the very, very early on, like first date, I will find a way to blurt it out because I don't want, I don't want it to be like this weird secret that comes out. I don't know. I don't want it to be a secret. I think I also just do this with meeting people in general now because people definitely assume I'm straight because I pass. So I will blurt it out in weird ways. Like this one time I was on a date with a girl and then they're like, what, a girl? But also I feel like most of the homophobia or biphobia, I guess I'm not totally sure which term I should use when I'm talking about straight people being just like weird about the gays in general. Either has been more in friendships. Like I remember when I came out to my roommate sophomore year, I told her, oh, I'm bi, I'm like I'm scared to tell people. One, she outed me to all of our friends who were really homophobic, and it was like a big drama, and I would say like stalled my wanting to come out more. And she said, she was like, yeah, I mean that's cool for you, and like she's like, you're totally gonna be a lesbian. I was like, no, I'm not a lesbian. I'm bi. I'm attracted to men and women. And all other people too. I'm not a lesbian. I'm just not. She's like, yeah, but you're gonna become a lesbian. This is just a stepping stone. I was like, no, it's not. I'm not a lesbian. I'm not. She's like, I feel like you're gonna get there though. Okay, no, I'm not. Why would I get there? I like to have sex with men. That's that's not how it works. And then she was like, yeah, I feel like bi women are cool, but I could never like be with a bi man. And I was like, what? How are you saying this to me right now? I mean, I know you, like, I'm not a bi man, but that's so fucked up. And in the same conversation where I told you I was bi, that's what you say. And yeah, like more dumb stuff like that with friends than in relationships, because I feel like if there's ever any hint of it with someone that I might date, it was just like.
Do you feel like your friends have started treating you differently after you came out as trans?
I've got new friends. I've made a lot of. I have a lot of old friends still. Of course. Oh, well, I guess that's not of course. My friends do treat me differently, I think. I couldn't say how, but I can kind of feel it. It's small social cues stuff. I mean, of course, using different pronouns for me. But just small stuff like the frequency in which I'm asked for high fives changes. Like really little stuff like that. And for my old friends, that took them a while. But I've also made new friends who were like clued in right away. And for them, it's just the way they treat me is the way they've always treated me, and it's really natural, and it acknowledges exactly how I feel. My family's been great, actually. though not initially, because I'm very slow with these things, and it took me a long time to come out. And when I did come out, I wasn't actually ready. Like you're told, if you go on like an online help blog or something and ask like, how do you know when you're ready to come out? The answer is usually just you'll know, right? I think that's a very common queer experience to have, where you're ready to come out now. And my mom caught me. We were in a car, so there was no way to get out of the conversation, and she asked me the question, so you're still a boy, right? And I couldn't lie to her, but I wasn't ready to come out, and I came out anyways, in German, mind you, which I'd never talked about queer things in German. So it for a while after that, it was strained, and my family, of course, didn't really acknowledge it, because I hadn't told everyone in the family. And then once I did come out to my dad as well, it took them a long time, many months, to like really start getting my pronouns right, and stop using masculine terms for me, and starting to treat me as just a kid instead of a son, which you can notice that difference. And I know that they treat me a little differently now, which is good.
Okay. 3 questions. You can answer them in any order you like. What do you think prompted your mom to ask, so you're still a boy? How do you describe yourself and your gender in German, which is a very gendered language? And 3, what's the difference in how they treat you?
I don't know how to answer the third one. I think the third one, it's just, especially I think as a trans person, you start to realize how people will treat you differently depending on what gender they view you as, and how even if they say they view you as one thing, you can tell how they view you subconsciously based on how they act towards you, like the way they laugh at the jokes you make, or the way they do or don't engage in physical contact with you, like all these little cues. What prompted my mom to ask was that I came out to her as ace, which was already hard, and like not because she. I feel like there's 2 kinds of reactions to coming out as ace that are negative, which one of them is like, oh, that's not a thing, and the other one is like, oh, everyone is like that. So the polar opposites, and she pulled the everyone is kind of like that, so it's not special. She pulled that on me, to an extent, not fully, but to an extent. And then I was trying to educate her about ace stuff. I found an article online, I was reading it off, something about gender came up, and she asked, okay, so you're ace, but you're still a boy, right?
At Oakland Tech, I was kind of hard not to like be out, because I was like had dyed hair, so it's kind of an assumption people make. But at my new school, like the close friend I have there, David, he knows, but he's chilling.
He knows you're pan, or he knows you're trans, or both?
He knows I'm pan.
Why do you dye your hair?
It looks pretty cool.
Are you able to meet other trans people without being out?
Yeah, there was a QSA at my old school, but I didn't go because there was like 50 people there, and I have bad social anxiety, so I don't like lots of people. But I met like one other trans person.
Does it help to meet other trans people? Does it make it easier?
Yeah, it like makes it easier knowing like it's not always gonna be like that forever. That's why like I've watched like some trans YouTubers on YouTube, cause like their message is like it's not always shitty forever. You can get through it.
Like, I never understood why I was so obsessed with lesbians, but like when I was younger, I'd be like, oh my god, because my dad would be like, oh yeah, like Rachel and Stephanie are coming over with their daughter Lucy, and I'd be like, oh my god, are they gay? And he'd be like, yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, are they pretty? Are they feminine? Because I was obsessed with femme lesbians, and I just love lesbians. I'm like, lesbians are so cool, lesbians are so great. But I was like, I'm straight. Like, what? And I was like, wait, you're obsessed with femme lesbians because you're feminine and queer. And like, I guess at that time, I didn't really think much about bisexuality because this was when I was a child. And I wasn't exposed to everything, even though my mom's bisexual, but just like, I don't know, I didn't really think about it. So like feminine lesbians were like the women who I could really relate to most. And I was just like, oh my God, beautiful women, loving women. This is what I'm here for. And so that obsession has like carried through into teenagehood. And stop screaming about there only being two genders. Stop telling men that they can't be feminine. Stop telling women that they're too pretty to be queer. Stop telling people that they're too feminine to like girls. Like, stop telling girls that they're too feminine to like girls. I hate that. I get told that all the time. People are like, you're too cute. I'm like,
Action to girls makes you be perceived as less feminine.
Yeah. Whenever I express my like sexuality towards anyone, just telling them about myself, they kind of have this switch that goes off. Like if I'm implying that I'm straight or I only like talk to boys, then they'll treat me differently as when I say that I'm queer. They'll kind of be like, oh, okay, like that's okay. But if I didn't say anything, then they'd probably just imply that I was straight.
are you out at school?
Yeah, it took a second, but then all my friends were like, oh, that's cool. And then everyone else came out. I'm like, oh, well, then that's okay.
But yeah, like I haven't always been grounded in my gender or sexuality. Like even now, I'm not. My sexuality much more than I was before, but my gender, it's still a everyday question that I ask myself. Like especially when I get dressed in the morning. And I'm like, I could either wear exactly what I want to wear, which is pretty much this outfit, pants, belt, shirt, it's good. Or I could wear like a dress or a skirt. And then people will be like, oh, she's wearing a skirt, she never does that. And then they'll comment on it, and then I'm going to have to answer questions. And like, they don't even know that I asked myself these exact questions as I was getting dressed. That's how it is every time I wear like ultra feminine clothes. I said ultra feminine, like just feminine clothes in general. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know who I am. I'm a teenager, I'm growing, I'm learning more things about myself literally every day, and like, I don't know. I think the question, definitely when I get mispronounced, like sometimes, like in my classes in AHA, the first thing we do like on the first day of school is like names, pronouns, like all that stuff, just to get it out of the way. And I tell them like she, her, they, them, but then no one ever calls me or like comes at me with they, them. So at this point, I don't know, because it just gets a lot having to like tell people like constantly, like, you do know that I'm like still questioning this like she, her thing, and it'd be a little helpful if you could go, like, if you could call me like by the pronouns I want. And then some people react to that well, and then they'll eventually do that, but most of the time they'll be like, oh yeah, and then say it like twice, and then just go back to she, her. That's one thing.
Do you think other people perceive you as feminine?
I think mostly yes. I feel that I tend to present more feminine, sometimes not intentionally, and people see me that way generally because I am biologically female.
When you present femininely, is that a choice that you make to yourself? Like, today I'm going to present myself in a feminine way, or is it more like, I'm going to wear makeup because I feel like it, or I'm going to wear a dress because I feel like it?
More of the latter. It can be the former where I'm like, oh, I feel more feminine today, so I'm gonna wear a dress. But most of the time I feel that if I want to wear makeup, then I will, just because I feel like it. Yeah. I also do see makeup itself as less... I know that society views makeup as very feminine, but I see it more as just a self-expression thing, not related to gender, personally.
How does it make you feel when people assume you're a girl?
Makes me a little sad. Like, I often wish that people would ask. And it makes me really happy when people ask, because it doesn't happen a lot. Yeah, I just wish that people would be less assuming. I occasionally get some weird looks in public, but again, I do live in a very liberal area, so it's not that uncommon to see people who present as I do, and see people, same-sex couples. But yeah, walking around with my girlfriend, in Berkeley, I'm very comfortable, but I know that if I lived in another area, then it could be very uncomfortable and possibly a little bit scary.
When I'm like this, right, when I'm actively changing the way I look and acting more feminine, right, it feels so right, and it feels better, and I feel happy about myself, and I feel more beautiful, right? And so, I don't know, some trans people you hear about, they have an inner certainty that, oh, like, this is how I am, this is who I am, right? I wouldn't say that I have a certainty, right? But confidence. And yeah, it makes me happy to be this. And I do think that this is who I am, so.
The majority of my life I've been around very strong queer women that like stand their ground and they know who they are and what they want. So I think that growing up with that kind of just taught me like don't care about what they're thinking.
If we don't have anyone to represent us and there's nowhere for us to speak, then it's hard to speak at all.
I don't like being on camera, but if I had to be, I would like to represent queer people. That would probably be the only reason I would be on camera.